Netflix docuseries about Sean Diddy Combs is making headlines for its never-before-seen footage of the music mogul in the days before his arrest. Now, Combs is threatening legal action against the streamer for airing the unauthorized footage. Behind the series is Combs' longtime rap rival 50 Cent and director Alexandria Stapleton, who sat down with NBC News' Chloe Malas ahead of
Gene Deal is back talking bold, and this time he's waving around what he calls receipts. Claims that, in his words, never made it into 50 Cent's Netflix documentary are setting the internet on fire. We're talking about a wild $1 million check, whispers of advance warnings before Tupac's death, and a timeline that flips everything people thought they knew about Biggie's final days. You clicked in because Gene Deal's name is ringing everywhere right now. He's dropping bombs that, according to him, 50 didn't want the world to see. So let's cut straight through the noise. 50 Cent locked in a massive deal with Netflix for that Diddy documentary, and everyone online expected one person to be front and center, Gene Deal. Why? Because he wasn't just some random bystander. He was Diddy's bodyguard during the peak of the bad boy era. He's been one of the loudest voices sharing behind-the-scenes stories from that wild time, and people know he was there. But when the series finally dropped, boom, no Gene Deal. Not even a quick clip or a single interview. Nothing. And that raised eyebrows fast. The talk going around now? That his footage didn't make the cut. Conversations, tapes, details, stuff that either earns you a big payday or gets you straight up erased. So today, we're breaking down what really went wrong and what people believe got chopped out of that Netflix edit. From that mysterious $1 million check to claims of people knowing Tupac was in danger before it went down, to a Biggie sequence filled with ignored warnings and choices that changed everything. This story's about to get crazy. Depending on how you read it, this whole thing helps set the stage for danger. So let's break it down. First off, some quick context. The rollout for 50 Cent's Netflix project was hyped like a no-limits expose, never-before-seen clips, raw behind-the-scenes footage, and shocking revelations tied to big-time legal drama. Online chatter even said the doc was supposed to be way longer. But what actually dropped was a 4-part Netflix series. The promo pitch was loud. We're exposing everything. Crimes, cover-ups, hidden secrets, the whole storm. But once it hit the screen, fans were quick to call out what wasn't there. The biggest complaint online? The most important piece. The part that could have tied everything together never made it in.
Put her on blast because she was telling me, she was saying to me that what I was asking for was crazy and they wasn't spending money like that. I'm talking about you got footage, you got clothing, I was doing footage, I had pictures, all the stuff that I had, you could figure out a way to pay her, brother, and stuff like that. And then I was telling her about some prices that I've already received and I had the invoices to show it. And then she was calling me like I was lying. I'm like, yo, who do you think you talking to? You know what I'm saying? And she was talking about, there's no way nobody paid. Nobody what? I say, first of all you people come with these documentaries and stuff. The first thing you tell me, y'all tell these people out here that y'all don't pay, and y'all pay. If you can make a picture look like $10,000, $15,000, you know what I'm saying? You can sit here and tell me that you're gonna pay me for my time sitting right down here with y'all. You understand? So then, one thing led to another, and I was like, all right, well then, F you, I spoke to 50, and then she said 50, and this is exact words that came out her mouth. 50 does not determine what goes in and goes.
So who exactly is Gene Deal in all this? He's the former bad boy bodyguard who stood right in the middle of the East Coast versus West Coast firestorm. He was close to the Vegas chaos when Tupac got hit, and he was around in LA when Biggie lost his life. Whether people believe every detail or not, that's his position. A man who was there when history turned deadly, now speaking up with his version of what went down. The big question still hanging in the air, why isn't Gene in the documentary? The word being passed around is simple: money and control. Early on, the team wanted his footage, his stories, his memories. But once director Alex Stapleton got involved, the vibe reportedly shifted fast. The talk is that 50 didn't have final say over payments or creative control. Decisions were being made elsewhere. And when the number offered hit the table, Gene saw it as flat-out disrespect. That's where the fallout started. Exclusive footage, first-hand accounts, key history, and the payout felt like loose change compared to the doc's value. So, Gene's move? Walk away and keep his story for himself. But money ain't the only thing people are pointing fingers at. There's a whole other layer to this mess. Another big reason being whispered all over the internet is about what didn't make the final cut, the kind of gritty, dangerous details that would have made the doc way messier, harder to spin, and nearly impossible to defend. Let's start with the East Coast versus West Coast war. Yeah, the documentary touches it, but fans say it skipped the real drama behind bodyguard Jake Wolf's death. Online chatter says Mark Curry claimed he knows exactly who did it.
Wolf was not the gunman who killed Jake, and Mark Curry knows that to be true. You understand? And East Coast War was more like Helena of Troy. When Puff got mad at Suge for being out there and allowing Misa to come out there to make money, however she was doing it, to feed her family, he vowed down that it's like, yo, I ain't never fucking with her again, and I ain't never fucking with him again. Puff and Suge had a conversation behind the House of Blues about was we all right, and Tupac was alive. Tupac wasn't dead. So if it was a war, Suge ain't having no conversation with Puff about we good. I know he could be doing the Hoboken hustle, trying to fool a brother, but had he killed my man or some shit like that, I wouldn't have no conversation with Puff. I'd been like, yo, you know what y'all niggas done? You know what happened? And it wasn't no conversation like that, brother. It wasn't no conversation whereas that, Suge made Puff feel like I'm gonna get you a payback for what happened to Jake. This was more so that Puff, for whatever reason, Suge, for whatever reason he was mad at Puff, and Puff, for whatever reason he was mad at Suge. It was between them two. It wasn't no whole East Coast wanted the West Coast dead, and the West Coast wanted East Coast to dead, because they still was going out, still chilling, still at places with each other. It was Bad Boy, and it was Death Row. It was no East Coast and no West Coast. West Coast dudes were still coming out on the East Coast getting love. East Coast niggas was still going out on the West Coast getting love. It was Bad Boy versus Death Row, and that's what it was, bro. And it was because of the two CEOs. But Suge tried to straighten it out. I gotta get at the Suge. The Death Row East Coast was going to bring in Eric B. It was going to bring in Big D. And those brothers was from the East Coast. So now they was looking for a representative to come to the meeting from Bad Boy so they could straighten out the shit between Pac and Big and Death Row and Bad Boy. And Puff is the one who refused. Puff is the one to refuse to send a representative or either come himself, and got mad at Zip and them because they were in the Mirage on 57th Street partying with Suge Knight. Got mad at them, and Zip hung up the phone on behind that.
But what you mean by Mark Curry? He know who killed Big Jake?
It was some Jamaican dude from the Bronx. He's dead now. The police ended up killing him at Magic City. I don't know his name, but Mark Curry know that it wasn't Wolf.
But when I was looking at the documentary, Kirk Burroughs, he did confirm that Big, he didn't want to go to LA, and they was actually getting warnings not to go to LA. But Diddy, he wanted to go, man.
My man, yeah, we must have had warnings, man. I didn't know. I knew that we shouldn't be.
This version of the story tosses out the idea of any government plot and goes straight to the streets instead. It points to a man described as a Jamaican guy from the Bronx. And the story goes that police later shot him inside a club called Magic City. Wild, right? And it doesn't stop there. People are saying the whole East versus West label is straight up misleading. In this telling, it wasn't about coasts, it was about labels. Bad Boy Records versus Death Row Records. According to that view, plenty of artists still moved freely between LA and New York, getting love on both sides. But the real tension came from the power struggle between Diddy and Suge Knight. That's what fans online are calling the true engine behind all that smoke and chaos. Then there's the missing piece that's driving folks crazy, a peace attempt. Word is, Death Row allegedly tried to set up a meeting to calm things down between Tupac and Biggie, but Bad Boy never showed up. No rep, no appearance, no effort to cool the beef. And while nobody's saying that proves a crime, the point people keep stressing is heavy. It's about morals, about who tried to stop the storm and who didn't. If peace was really on the table and it got ignored, that decision still matters. It's not the same as pulling the trigger, but it sure changes how the story feels. Now here's the part everyone online keeps calling explosive. To keep things clear, what comes next is a retelling of accusations and public narratives, not confirmed facts. Still, these claims are spreading fast, and the details are wild. The version floating around says there was advance awareness about what went down at Quad Studios, and someone close to the scene saw the setup unfold in real time. The documentary briefly mentions the 1994 Quad Studio shooting, when Tupac was hit 5 times. But what's being emphasized here is what people say got cut out. According to online talk, Diddy, Andre Harrell, and Jimmy Henchman were all in Henchman's office that same day. Then the scene gets painted like this. Biggie and his crew supposedly had no idea Diddy was even there. Diddy was expected to slide up to Biggie's session. handle some junior MAFIA business. But instead, he stayed behind, reportedly keeping tabs on what was unfolding. And that's where the tension kicks in. Why would a man need to keep tabs on his own artist? The answer people keep repeating is money and leverage. The word going around says Biggie's publishing was being tightly controlled, and he was trying to find a way to break free. The retelling goes even deeper. Biggie was supposedly getting advice to shift his publishing under someone else's name, maybe his wife, maybe Lil Cease, to change how the money flowed and flip the control. So the picture that forms is intense. Diddy sitting in that office, tracking what Biggie was up to, while a plan was being drawn up in that same room. A so-called lesson aimed at Tupac, tied to a debt, a studio visit, and a song with Lil Sean. Whether you believe it or not, that's the version online, and it's got everyone talking loud. Then the tone flips hard, because disrespect enters the picture, and that kind of energy never ends quietly. The version being pushed online says people in that room knew what was about to happen because the plan was spoken out loud. That's the heavy claim. Awareness existed. And the logic that fans keep repeating goes like this. If nothing was known, then why didn't Diddy just go upstairs to Biggie's session? The room location was reportedly known to everyone there. Yet, in this retelling, Diddy stays put, waiting instead of moving. That's how it's being told, how it's being marketed across the internet right now. But it's crucial to keep in mind, this is all an accusation, not verified evidence. None of this has been independently confirmed. Still, the allegation itself is heavy. Claims of knowing something dangerous was coming, giving no warning, and making no effort to stop it. And according to people spreading this story, that's exactly what the documentary sidestepped. From there, the focus shifts to motive, and that's when it gets deeply personal. This version links resentment toward Tupac not to rap beef or fame, but to women. Tupac, they say, had a natural magnetism. He'd walk into a room and instantly all eyes were on him.
He idolized Tupac because you got to realize when a woman looked at Tupac, they probably wanted him. Puff wasn't getting that type of fever from girls. You understand what I'm saying? Puff had to use his money. Puff had to use his position in order to get women. Now, I seen him with some bad joints, and I used to look at them like this, like, not on no hating shit, but like, you wouldn't be here if you.
Meanwhile, Diddy gets described as someone who needed money and status to get the same kind of attention. Then comes one of the quotes being passed around from that angle. I don't know how to talk to women. I don't know how to talk to girls. That line is said to reflect a core insecurity, a jealousy that ran deep. The takeaway pushed in this version is simple but sharp. Personal jealousy turned into quiet tension, tension that built over time and spilled into business, music, and power. Now, as this story continues, the focus swings back to the money side. And this part isn't told like internet gossip, but like something witnessed up close. Picture this. The setting is 112th Street late afternoon vibes. Gene Deal sitting on a stoop with a guy named Eric Zip. Out of nowhere, Von Zip rolls up, showing off a shiny new car like he just hit the jackpot. Then it happens. A check comes out. Not just any check, but a $1 million check. It's flashed like a trophy, bold and braggy, like proof of a major move. According to the story being told, that check came straight from Barry Hankerson and Jimmy Henchman, names tied to Blackground Records. And here's where it gets wild, the timing. It's said to have happened right after Tupac's death. That's where the so-called money trail angle kicks in. This isn't about cash passed in some alley. It's about a check that went through real banks, with paper trails, signatures, and processing records that could still exist today. So the challenge becomes simple but powerful. Trace it. If the paper trail's real, it tells a story no one can erase. And then another name slides into the mix, Kirk Burroughs, the former president of Bad Boy Records. He's described as the type who kept detailed notes and files on everything. The rumor attached to his name that he once mentioned paying people to drive out to Las Vegas right around the time Tupac was killed.
My man Boom Dang, aka my man Slick, a check for $1 million. We don't know, and everybody trying to say, lie, talking about half of it got paid, 500. I don't know. I know when I asked him about, we asked him, do we ask? No, we didn't ask him. I know when he showed us the check and he walked away after he showed us the check for the $1 million, you understand? I asked Boom, I said, Boom, when did he get a record label? He said, you know how Zip is. I said, when did he get a Zip record label? Zip had a check for $1 million. He said he got got it from Barry Hankerson and Jimmy Henchman for his record label, Blackground Records. So now, if that's true, we know Jimmy Henchman and Puff was cool. You should be able to trace $1 million if that's the truth. If that's the truth.
Even in this retelling, there's an acknowledgement that not every single detail is personally confirmed. It's a mix of memory, hearsay, and what's been passed around. But one thing keeps echoing through all the versions. If records exist, paper trails can talk. If those documents show who got paid, when, and why, then maybe, just maybe, the truth could finally crack open. So now the question hangs heavy in the air. Will anyone ever dig deep enough to uncover it all? Or will this story stay buried like it's been for nearly 30 years? Now, we're stepping into the Biggie section, and this is where everything flips from money to warnings and movement. The setup drops Gene Deal right at the scene the night Biggie was killed, and the version being told doesn't match the neat, simplified story most people grew up hearing. This retelling paints a darker, messier picture, one filled with phone calls, ignored signals, and tension that was ready to explode. It starts with warnings. A call supposedly comes through from W.S. Worth Hall, known on the street as Unique. The backdrop? A federal prison in Colorado. The claim goes that a call got through, and only 2 words were said. Vest up. Then, click. The line goes dead. The explanation floating around is that 3-way calls inside the system get flagged and cut off instantly. Later, a follow-up call is said to confirm that it really was Unique from Mecca Audio who made that warning. Then another message reportedly comes through, the same woman who helped connect the call. They're coming out. They're coming to get y'all. That's when security becomes the biggest issue of the night. According to the version being circulated, Kirk Burroughs got reached out to, more security was requested, but the crew that night only had 4 guards total for Diddy, Biggie, and everyone rolling with them. 4, and that's being described as nowhere near enough for the level of danger in the air. Then comes the most shocking part, a straight-up refusal. No extra security, no extra backup, just the same small team trying to hold things down. Then comes another warning, this time from Chaz Williams, with the same message. They're coming at y'all. The reasons for the growing beef, a long list of street-level tension.
Law enforcement on how, if Diddy had anything to do with breaking that money up or giving that money up to him like that. Or did he use somebody else? Or did he do something for somebody else to be able to get that money for that? We don't know.
I was just about to say that too. Keefe D, he can use him for the upcoming trial.
Well, Kirk was articulate in always keeping notes and files and things like that. But that money can't, just do a trace on $1 million check. Just do a trace on them. I want them to do it because that would prove that I saw $1 million check. That would prove. Just do a trace on it. The man dead now. What you gonna do?
People believed it tied back to what happened with Jake Wolf, plus a phone call Biggie allegedly made that led to a shooting at the Winter Bagel spot in New York. There's also mention of a separate conflict involving a Muslim man and an argument at Soul Train, stacked on top of the unresolved heat after Tupac's death, and fresh street talk about sets and affiliations. All of that created one clear picture. Danger was real, and it was closing in fast. The story moves next to Andre Harrell's house, where Diddy was staying at the time. And that's where the timeline takes another sharp turn. A small but striking detail gets tossed in. Diddy walking down the stairs wearing a white Beverly Hills hotel robe, joked about like it might have been lifted from the hotel itself. But just as the laughter hits, the mood flips, fast and cold. That's when the warning drops hard. Gene Deal says Diddy was told straight up, I got intel. People are gonna come and try to kill us. But instead of panic, the reaction described as pure dismissal. Diddy reportedly said, I don't want to hear that. Then came the offer, something like, you ain't gotta go if you don't want to go. Moments later, they're heading out anyway. Next, the focus jumps to Clark Kent, DJ, and Motown VP, said to be in Biggie's room the night before everything went down. The party that followed wasn't some random celebration. It's described as a planned setup at the Peterson Automotive Museum. In this version, Biggie allegedly said, D-Rock and Puff set this party up for me to go to, and the crew rolled out together. Once outside, the energy was tense, high alert everywhere. Bloods reportedly spotted in the area, a weapon tucked behind someone's back, and nerves on edge. Then comes resistance, someone questioning orders, saying, how you gonna tell me how to do my job? That's when it allegedly turned into a threat. Get in or lose your job at Bad Boy. So the car ride happens anyway. A sharp command cuts through the air. Kenny, run the next 3 lights, get out fast. Then comes the calm before chaos. Gene Deal reportedly says the last thing heard was, "Big's name ain't coming across the light." Seconds later, boom! A gun points, shots erupt, pop, 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 pop. Kenny floors it, rage and panic flooding the car. They're shooting at Big. Then comes the U-turn. The doors fly open on Biggie's car. Everyone scrambles out, except Biggie. A chase breaks out in another Suburban, but the shooter's car disappears into the night. Chaos, confusion, and silence. Just like that, everything changes forever.
Puff have been involved in Tupac's murder or Biggie's murder?
I think that when you set up an atmosphere for something to happen, how involved are you? You set up the atmosphere. You put people in positions to get hurt. He knew that somebody was going to do something. He was told. I told him before we left. I told him. Mace told him. See, people ain't telling. See, everybody think that Gene Deal is the only one know this shit. I'm not the only one that's noticed and privy to this information. I'm the only one that's speaking on it and has spoke on it. Now, people are coming out gradually, but when Puff set up an atmosphere for somebody to get hurt and they get hurt, don't you take some responsibility for that?
Is that more tactics? He's not going to pull the trigger. He might not even pay someone to do so, but like releasing that song Who Shot You, that creates an atmosphere, creating certain things and planting seeds in somebody else's mind to be number one, where Tupac ends up getting killed. Biggie.
Then comes the hospital decision, and this part hits hard. There was reportedly a hospital just 2 blocks away, but instead of heading there, the car drives nearly 30 minutes. Biggie's bleeding out, every second counting down, and the question that echoes across every retelling writes itself. Why? Witnesses say someone yelled, "Don't let him go to sleep, keep him up." Biggie's last reported words, "Just do it." That single moment haunts people even now, with many believing that if they'd gone to the closer hospital, things might have ended differently. This part isn't just about location, it's about decisions and atmosphere. The argument being pushed is simple but sharp. When you create an environment where violence can happen, you carry some responsibility when it does. When you ignore warnings, put people in risky positions, and refuse to cool things down, you're playing with danger. That's the moral accusation buried under all of this. Not that someone pulled the trigger, but that they helped create the conditions for the tragedy to unfold. It's also said that other people were there that night and saw pieces of what went down. But the reason this is resurfacing now is because one person is finally speaking publicly. Zooming out, the story points to how the flames got fed through music and choices. Songs like Who Shot Ya dropping after Tupac was attacked. It lit the tension even higher. Add in the peace meetings that were refused, the missed chances to settle the feud, and Biggie choosing to fly out to LA despite multiple warnings. It all gets painted as a chain of choices that push things too far. The narrative argues that the violence didn't come from one single act. It came from a buildup. Seeds planted, signals ignored, peace refused. A chain reaction where ego, fear, and pride became deadly fuel. The claim isn't about paying someone off or pulling a gun. It's about responsibility for the atmosphere that turned lethal. And that's where the biggest question of all lands. Why would 50 Cent's Netflix documentary leave all of this out? Why not include the claims, the context, the deeper questions that make the story so explosive? That's the mystery keeping people online digging, posting, and arguing like the case just broke open all over again. 3 main reasons keep getting tossed around for why all this never made it into 50 Cent's documentary, and each one packs a punch. First, legal risk. The Keith D case surrounding Tupac is still active, and diving into unverified accusations could instantly blow up into a legal nightmare. Lawyers don't play with that kind of heat. They'll shut down anything that smells like a lawsuit. Between potential defamation claims and interference with an open case, the smart move for Netflix might have been to keep it tight and avoid anything that could land them in court. Second, credibility. 50 Cent reportedly wants this doc to be seen as serious journalism, not street gossip. Something cultural, something powerful, not a YouTube theory dump.
Of the Quad Studio shit. Like in the documentary, they was talking about that, right? You know what I'm saying? They talked about the Quad Studio shit. But they didn't mention the fact, and they left it out, that Big and Siege did not know that Puff and Andre Harrell was in Jimmy Henchman's office the day Pac got killed. The day Pac got shot at Quad Studio. Let me repeat that again so it don't get mixed up in the whole thing. They did not mention that Andre Harrell and Puff Daddy Daddy and Jimmy Henchman were all in the office together. Puff was on the office because he was trying to spy on Big and them, because Big was writing the Junior Mafia stuff and Puff had his publishing. I told this to a couple of people before. I said it before, and you got people that's running with it like they knew the story in the whole 9 yards. You understand? They'll lie and you ask them, how do you know that? Who told you? They couldn't even tell you that. They'll tell you some lie, they did some kind of investigation, but it didn't happen like that. You understand? Puff was there to spy on Big because he had owned Big Publishing, and Big had turned around, and the same people who helped Puff get Big Publishing told Big to turn and put Tatiana or put somebody else's name on his publishing, or give it to Lil C's or whoever, this, that, and the third that he wrote for, so he can get the money from it. So that's how that went down. So they was there to spy on Big. In the interim of him being there to spy on Big, Jimmy Henchman told him that they finna teach Pac a lesson, because Pac had owed him some money. So that's why he was up in the studio and was coming to the studio. Pac owed him some money. He was gonna work it off and get some money from doing a song with Lil Sean. And that's what that was about. But Pac was talking greasy to Jimmy Henchman, and Jimmy Henchman wasn't the type of dude that you talk greasy to, alleged, unless you 50 Cent.
So Diddy knew what was going to happen to Pac.
He knew Pac was about to deal with. Yeah, he was there to see it. He was there to see it. He wasn't only there to see Big and them. When Jimmy Henchman told him that, he was there to see what's going to happen to Pac. He was there for that, because had he not been there for that, he would have went up there in the office. He would have went to the studio or the studio session with Big and them. He would have went to that studio session with Big and them. He knew what room Big and them was in. He didn't do that. He was there to see what was going to happen to Pac after Jimmy told.
And here's where Gene Deal's name splits opinion. He's a great storyteller, no doubt, but not everyone believes every claim he drops. Some folks online even label him a conspiracy guy. So cutting him out could have been a cleanup move to keep the project polished, less risky, and harder for critics to tear apart. And while we're talking legal pressure, Diddy's team already came swinging. Reports say his lawyers sent a cease and desist to Netflix, calling the whole thing a shameful hit piece. They even accused the doc of using stolen footage. From a business angle, piling on more bold, unverified accusations could have been like handing Diddy's legal team a fresh weapon to fire back with. Third, money. The most old-school reason of them all. Gene Deal allegedly wanted to be paid big, what he believed his footage, stories, and receipts were truly worth. But 50's a businessman first. If the deal doesn't make sense financially, the cut happens. Simple math, business is business. And just when the smoke starts to settle, boom, extra drama hits the internet. One viral story claims Diddy sent 50 Cent flowers at Club 11 in Miami, but not the friendly kind. According to what's being called a funeral director angle, the flowers were allegedly arranged like a funeral display. That's the level of petty and dark energy people say is fueling this tension right now. Before we wrap this section, quick reminder, if you're rocking with Muck Trip, hit subscribe, smash like, and drop a comment. This channel keeps eyes on what the mainstream edits out, and trust, there's always more coming. Now, after hearing all of this, it's no surprise why so many people find Gene Deal's version believable. The man talks with confidence, he sticks to his details, and his story hasn't changed much over the years. But let's keep it real. These are still allegations, not hard evidence. This is a narrative, not a courtroom verdict. So yeah, listen close, but keep your head clear. The big takeaway people keep pushing is this. 50 Cent either couldn't or wouldn't include certain material in the Netflix doc. The claims about advance awareness at Quad Studios, the mysterious $1 million check, the ignored warnings before Biggie's death, all that explosive stuff, add in the bigger point about choices, egos, and missed chances to de-escalate, and suddenly you've got a story that feels dangerous to even repeat. And that kind of material, that's exactly the type that gets labeled too risky. Maybe the cut was made for legal reasons, maybe to protect credibility, maybe over money. It could have been any mix of those. Whatever the reason, that footage and those claims never made the final edit. And now, instead of being tucked inside a doc, they're being broadcast straight to the public. Uncensored, raw, and impossible to ignore. So now it's your turn. What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe Gene Deal's account? Do you think Diddy had any role in what happened to Tupac and Biggie? Or is this just another layer of street legend twisted over time? As these accusations keep going public, the pressure's only getting heavier. So what happens next? More people stepping up to talk? More legal pushback? Or maybe finally some truth breaking through all the noise? Before you bounce, hit like, share, subscribe, and comment. This story's not done yet, and you already know we're staying locked in on everything the mainstream leaves out.